I didn't plan on hearing it. I didn't even know it existed. I was looking for a charger. That's it. She'd taken mine again, like she always does, and left hers somewhere under a blanket or in her car or in the fridge for all I knew. Laurel was chaos like that. Beautiful, glitter-covered chaos. Her purse was sitting on the kitchen counter, half-zipped. The screen of her phone was glowing faint blue through the leather, like it was alive. It buzzed once. Then again. Then again. Normally I wouldn't touch it. I never have. I'm not that guy. I didn't want to be that guy. But something about the way she walked past me last night, hair still wet from a rush shower, her lips still tasting like spearmint gum and tequila, something about that kiss felt like the last page of a book I never got to finish. It wasn't love. It was closure. I just hadn't realized it yet. I reached into her purse. Not to spy, not really. Just to move it. Just to silence that blue glow. That's when the voice note started playing. Automatically. Out loud. And no, it wasn't mine. Her phone had opened the messaging app. The contact name was just an emoji, crescent moon. And the most recent message wasn't text at all. It was audio. 42 seconds long. Timestamped at 12:14 a.m. Last night. Right in the middle of girls' night. I didn't mean to listen, but I did. Her voice, unmistakably hers, giggling, breathless, whispered, "I swear if Micah finds out, I'll just cry and say it was the tequila again. He always believes me." Then a man's voice, deep, confident, "Not mine. Don't worry. He's too soft to leave you anyway." More laughter, then a sound I'll never unhear. I dropped the phone like it had burned me. For a moment I thought I might throw up in the sink. But I didn't. I just stood there, listening to the buzzing silence, as if it could rewind time. Later that night, when she came home and kissed me on the forehead like I was a child, I smiled. Numb. Hollow. I said nothing, because I had a better idea. She didn't know I had security cameras in the apartment. Not for her, but because of a break-in a year ago when we were both traveling. Most of the time I forget they're even on. But I checked the app. One of the cameras had caught something. Not in the bedroom. Not in the living room. In the hallway. Right by the front door. The moment she walked in last night, alone, barefoot, laughing to herself, she didn't look drunk. She didn't look tired. She looked guilty. Then she whispered something under her breath, so quiet, I had to replay it 10 times. I can't believe I kissed him after that. She meant me. Not him. Not Crescent Moon. Me. The fiancé. The backup plan. And that's when I knew. I couldn't confront her yet. Not until I had everything. Not until I recorded her. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I lay in bed next to her, pretending to breathe evenly, pretending not to notice that her back was turned farther than usual. She wasn't touching me, not even a toe. She used to curl up under my arm and mutter half-dreams into my shoulder. But last night, silence. Like she was afraid of being too close to someone she'd already decided to leave. But she didn't leave. She stayed. Which was worse. Because now I had to pretend like everything was normal. Because now I had a mission. That morning, she made coffee like nothing happened. Told me she was going to work from a cafe. Said she needed new energy. I nodded. Told her to take her time. I even joked about saving her a spot on the couch for movie night. She smiled and kissed me on the cheek. It felt like being stabbed with a spoon. Once she left, I sat in the kitchen, staring at the wall for 20 minutes before finally standing up. I didn't know what I was doing yet. I just knew I couldn't live in limbo. I needed truth. Raw, painful, undeniable truth. The kind you don't explain away with alcohol or nostalgia or guilt. I needed to catch her being herself. So I set up a recorder. Not hidden. Not wired. Just my old iPad, sitting upright on the bookshelf in the living room. The camera lens was just big enough to capture the couch and the hallway. I angled it slightly toward the door. Hit record. Left it running. Then I waited. The day dragged like wet cement. I worked from my laptop, barely able to type. I checked the iPad every hour to make sure it hadn't turned off. I didn't know what I was expecting. Maybe she'd come home on a phone call and say something suspicious. Maybe she'd bring someone over. Maybe I was insane. Every possibility made my chest feel like it was collapsing inward. She came back around 4 p.m. Alone. Hair up in a bun. Tote bag on one shoulder. Iced coffee in the other. She looked normal. She kissed me on the forehead again, asked if I wanted Thai for dinner, then went straight to the bathroom. No red flags. No lipstick smudges. No mysterious perfume. Just my fiancé, Laurel, acting like she hadn't just shattered our relationship 42 seconds at a time. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to throw my phone at the wall and ask who the hell Crescent Moon was. But I didn't. I smiled. I told her Thai sounded great. We watched a dumb baking show on Netflix, and I laughed when I was supposed to, even though my stomach was eating itself from the inside. At 2:30 a.m., once she was asleep, I grabbed the iPad and went into the bathroom, closed the door, and plugged in my headphones. 3 hours of video. Mostly silence. A few creaks. The hum of the fridge. Then, at 12:38 p.m., I saw it. She was pacing. Alone. In the living room. Talking out loud. No phone in hand. Like she was practicing something. I turned up the volume. Her voice came through, shaky but clear. Just say it was nothing. Say it was a joke. Say you were drunk. He'll believe you. He always does. And if he doesn't. She paused. Bit her nail. Just cry. I stopped the video. That was enough for now. More than enough. This wasn't guilt. This was strategy. And I realized something I never wanted to admit. She didn't respect me. She didn't even fear me. She saw me as an obstacle. One she could move with a few tears and a story. And that's when I made a decision. I was going to give her a chance to lie to my face. But not without pressing record first. The next morning, I woke up before her. Not because I wanted to. I barely slept. But because my heart felt like it was sprinting even when I was lying still. My eyes opened at 5:47 a.m. And I just stared at the ceiling, listening to her soft breathing. There used to be something comforting about waking up beside her, like the world couldn't hurt me if she was near. Now, all I could think was, how many times has she done this before? I got up quietly, careful not to wake her, and made coffee. She liked it with oat milk and a little cinnamon, a habit I picked up and maintained because I thought love was in the details. I left her cup on the nightstand. Even betrayal, it turns out, doesn't kill muscle memory. Around 6:30, I sent her a text from the kitchen. Hey, when you get up, can we talk? Nothing bad. It was bait. Soft and casual. I wanted her off balance. Not defensive, not guarded, just vulnerable enough to trip over her own story. And if she lied, which I was sure she would, I'd have it all. On camera. On record. At 6:42, she responded. Sure, babe. Everything okay? God, that babe stung more than usual. Like a band-aid over a gunshot wound. 10 minutes later, she came out wearing one of my hoodies. The one with the frayed sleeves she always said smelled like home. Her hair was messy, her smile sleepy. Anyone else would have looked at her and seen warmth, softness, honesty. But not me. Not anymore. I told her to sit on the couch. I was already recording. My phone was propped inside a hollowed-out book on the shelf. The iPad was behind the TV speaker. Audio and video. I wasn't leaving anything to chance. She sat down cross-legged and took a sip of her coffee. What's going on? I looked her dead in the eyes and asked, did anything happen the other night? Girls' night, I mean. She didn't even blink. No. Why? There it was. The lie. I didn't smile. I didn't react. I just tilted my head, like I needed a little more. Just seemed like you were acting weird when you got home. You were laughing to yourself. She laughed again, almost too quickly. I was probably drunk. You know how Sarah is. She made me do shots of that terrible cinnamon stuff. I nodded. Yeah, I've been feeling kind of off about it. She reached for my hand. Her voice dropped to a comforting tone, the one she used when I got anxious or overwhelmed. Micah, there's nothing to worry about. I swear. I love you. It was just a silly night. Honestly, I barely even remember parts of it. That's when she sealed it. The fake intimacy. The emotional manipulation. The performance. She was acting like the hero of a romantic drama where her only crime was being too tipsy and too pretty for her own good. I didn't say anything. I just held her hand. But inside I was documenting every second. Not just for proof, not just for revenge, but because I needed to remember what it felt like to be lied to so cleanly, so casually, so professionally. Later that day, I reviewed the footage. It was perfect. Crystal clear audio, full-frame video. The soft lighting made it look like a scene from a cozy YouTube couples Q&A. Except this one was a slow-motion train wreck, with a smile on her face as she told me, without hesitation, that nothing happened. And yet, the recording on her phone said otherwise. The footage of her pacing, coaching herself to just cry, said otherwise. I had her. Fully. Completely. And yet, I still didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel anything, really. Just cold. Like a man standing outside his own life, watching the windows fog over. I knew what had to come next, but I also knew I couldn't rush it. If she was this good at hiding it, then there had to be more. I wasn't interested in one betrayal. I wanted all of it. Every lie, every detail, every late night, girls' night. That wasn't what it seemed. So I made a new plan. I wasn't going to confront her anymore. I was going to study her. And when the time came, when I knew every truth she tried to bury, I'd let her bury herself with them. The hardest part about knowing you're being lied to isn't the lie itself. It's pretending like you believe it. Smiling while your stomach knots, nodding while your chest caves in, laughing at a joke you didn't hear because you're too busy analyzing her body language, her tone, her word choice. Every interaction becomes a crime scene. Every word is evidence. Over the next few days, I became an actor. And honestly, I was good at it. I made dinner. I cleaned the apartment. I left post-it notes on her laptop like I used to when we first moved in together. Little drawings of cats saying, "I missed you," or "Kill the Zoom meeting, babe." She smiled, kissed my cheek, texted heart emojis. She never once suspected that I already knew everything. And then, just when I thought I'd reached the limit of what I could emotionally withstand, she handed me the next breadcrumb. Not because she meant to, but because people like her always slip eventually. It was Thursday morning. She was rushing out for a branding client meeting and couldn't find the right charger for her iPad. Her MacBook had died the night before, and she was freaking out in the living room, rummaging through drawers like a raccoon on espresso. "Just use mine," I said, grabbing my spare from my backpack. "Wait," she replied, hesitating. "Actually, never mind. I'll find mine." She froze for half a second. Her voice tightened. Eyes flicked toward her office. It was subtle, but I saw it. She didn't want me near her devices. That's when I knew, whatever I needed to find, it was on her MacBook. Later that night, when she was out grabbing drinks with Maya, I sat on the couch with her laptop in front of me. She'd left it plugged in and charging, as if it were just another machine in our home. As if it hadn't become the only key left to unlock who she really was. I didn't try her password. I didn't need to. I already knew it. CL0/2019. Named after our cat, of course. Her idea. Because you always remember your pet's name even if you forget your boyfriend's birthday, she joked once. The second the screen opened, I felt like I'd broken into a church I didn't believe in. Everything was clean. Too clean. Desktop spotless. Apps in alphabetical order. No files left open. But the Finder sidebar showed something she forgot to unplug. An external drive. Named archive_L. My heart hit my ribs like a warning bell. I opened it. Inside were folders, labeled by month, going back over 2 years. At first glance, they looked harmless. Wedding planning PDFs, invoices, Pinterest screenshots, design mock-ups. But then I saw a folder titled private___open. The kind of label that only makes you open it faster. Inside were dozens of voice memos, screen recordings, and short videos. Some were just her ranting to herself. Some were voice notes she'd sent to people on other platforms. But 5 of them, 5 files, were marked with a moon emoji. I opened the most recent one. Her voice, whispering, "I wish I could just teleport to your apartment and not go back. I'm so sick of pretending. Micah keeps asking if I'm okay. I want to scream at him just to shut up for once." Silence. Then laughter. Another voice. Male. Calm. You could just come tonight." Her again. "And tell him what? That I've been lying to his face for over a year? That I'm not even sure if I want to marry him, or if I just like how safe it feels?" The silence afterwards said more than either of them did. I sat there in the dark, lit only by the glow of her laptop, listening to her disassemble me piece by piece. Like I was a project she lost interest in finishing. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I wasn't even heartbroken. I felt disconnected. Like I was watching someone else's life. I checked the metadata on the file. It was recorded 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks. Meaning every time we cooked together, every time we shared a bed, every time she looked me in the eyes and told me I was her forever, she had already decided I wasn't even her next month. I copied the entire archive_L folder to my own external drive. Took 2 hours. By the time she came home, I was already back on the couch, half asleep, movie paused. She smiled, dropped her keys in the bowl by the door, and asked, "You picked something without me?" I smiled back and said, "Nah, I was just waiting. She had no idea how much that word would come back to haunt her. There's something surreal about watching your own life fall apart from the comfort of your living room. The couch still smells like her shampoo. The cat still curls up on her throw blanket. The calendar on the fridge still says, cake tasting at 3 p.m., bring Micah, in her handwriting. But none of it feels real anymore. It's like being trapped in a museum exhibit called Before He Knew. And now I knew. I had the files. I had the recordings. I had her own words admitting everything. But still, one piece was missing, the man behind the moon emoji. Crescent moon. The voice on the memos. The ghost I could hear, but hadn't seen. I thought that part would be easy. I thought I'd just scroll through her contacts or find a photo tucked in some private album and be done with it. I was wrong. Laurel had been careful. Not in the classic delete the text kind of way. No, she was smarter than that. She used encrypted messaging apps. She had contacts saved under single-letter names. She didn't leave photos on her phone. She uploaded them to hidden Google Drive folders. I only found one because I searched the word moon and saw a file name labeled moonlight_project unraveled. At first, I thought it was some design concept for her freelance work. It wasn't. It was a shared folder, and it was filled with selfies. Dozens of them. Her and him. They weren't naked. Nothing explicit. But they didn't need to be. The intimacy was worse. Her in his hoodie. Her taking mirror pics in a hotel bathroom while he lay in bed behind her, half covered, face turned away from the camera like he couldn't be bothered. A video of them singing drunkenly to some sad indie song in the back of an Uber. Him kissing her shoulder while she giggled. And still, I hadn't seen his face clearly. Until I opened one more file. A group photo. For people. A casual hangout. A couch. Pizza boxes. And there he was. Front and center. Smiling. Gideon. My stomach dropped so fast I actually made a sound. Just a whisper, something between a laugh and a cough. Gideon wasn't some stranger. He wasn't some coworker she'd recently met or an old flame who'd slid into her DMs. No. Gideon was my friend. Or so I thought. We met in college. We weren't best friends, but we'd kept in touch. He came to our housewarming. Brought wine and a dumb live, laugh, love doormat as a joke. He even helped me move furniture one weekend when Laurel threw her back out. She had laughed, watching us struggle with the couch, and said, "You two are such a team." Yeah, a team. I scrolled through the folder, stunned. Each file was a new punch in the ribs. The captions were subtle. Inside jokes. Dates. Sometimes just a single emoji. But they told a clear story. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't some late-night mistake she regretted. This was an ongoing relationship. They had a system. A language. A rhythm. I sat there in the dark for a long time, watching the photo of Gideon and Laurel laughing over pizza like they hadn't just detonated my entire life. It wasn't even the cheating that got me. It was the collaboration. The planning. The long game. The quiet decision between them that I didn't matter. That my love, my loyalty, my future with her was all just background noise while they played out whatever twisted little fantasy they'd built. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I pulled out my old hard drive and backed up everything. Every photo. Every file. I uploaded it to 3 different cloud services. I encrypted the folder with a password only I knew. I labeled it Laurel_truth_package. And then, I made one more move. I emailed Gideon. Just 2 lines. "Hey man, you free this week? Would love to catch up. Been way too long." I wanted to see his face. I wanted to hear him lie to me. Because I wasn't just looking for closure anymore. I wanted to make sure they both remembered what it felt like to be studied, the way I had been studied, observed, dissected, played. I wasn't angry. I was awake. It took Gideon 12 minutes to respond to my email. "Dude, hell yes. Been meaning to text you. I'm slammed during the day, but want to do coffee Friday evening? The place near Broad Street?" It was exactly the answer I expected from someone who didn't know the walls were already burning around him. I told him Friday at 6 worked. He sent me a thumbs-up emoji. The same kind of nonchalance he probably used to text Laurel after their secret hotel meetups. I stared at that stupid emoji until my knuckles went white. Friday came fast. I dressed like I always did. Jeans, hoodie, sneakers. I wanted to look normal. Harmless. I didn't want to give him a single reason to suspect I knew. Because if he suspected, he'd lie smoother, prep more. And I needed him off guard. I needed to watch him sweat. The cafe was half full when I arrived. It was one of those hipster joints with mismatched chairs and minimalist mugs that looked like they were stolen from a Scandinavian pottery block. I picked the table in the far back, against the brick wall, just one chair facing the entrance. Gideon walked in at 5:59, right on time. He looked the same, a little more beard than I remembered, a new tattoo creeping up the side of his neck. He scanned the room, spotted me, and grinned like we were about to catch up on fantasy football. "Micah, man," he said, slapping my shoulder as he Saturday, "you look good. Been a minute." I smiled. "Yeah, been a weird month." He chuckled, not catching the tone. "Tell me about it. Work's been insane. Laurel said you guys were planning that trip to Vermont, though. That's still happening?" There it was. Laurel said. A detail he shouldn't have had unless he'd spoken to her after our so-called girls' night, which meant the lie was still alive and well between them. I leaned back in my chair, studying his posture. He was relaxed. Too relaxed. No tension in his shoulders, no guilt in his eyes. He genuinely thought I had no clue. I let him talk for a bit. About his job, his brother's engagement, a concert he went to last week. Then I leaned forward slightly and asked, "You ever get the feeling someone's keeping something from you? Like you're the last to know a joke everyone else already laughed at?" He blinked, hesitated for a second too long. Yeah, sure. I mean, people are shady sometimes." I nodded. "Yeah, especially people you trust." Silence. He looked at me differently now. Not panicked, just curious, testing the temperature of the room. "Something happened?" he asked. I reached into my bag and pulled out an envelope. Not digital, not a USB, just an old-fashioned manila folder. I slid it across the table. He didn't touch it at first. "What's this?" I shrugged. "Some stuff I think you should see." He opened it slowly. Inside were 3 printed photos. One of them was the mirror selfie of Laurel in his hoodie. Another was a screenshot of the voice memo transcript. The third was the group photo. All of them printed in high quality, on thick matte paper, deliberate, undeniable. His eyes moved over the images like they were foreign objects. I watched his throat tighten. Then, slowly, he put the folder down. "I can explain," he said, voice low. That sentence, those 4 words, broke something in me. I didn't yell. I didn't move. I just said, "You don't need to. I already heard it. I've got hours of audio." Her pacing the apartment, whispering your name, laughing about how easy I am to lie to. He looked like someone had drained all the color from his body. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he finally whispered. I shook my head. "That's not true. You both meant for it. You planned it. You covered it. You hid it for months. And what's worse, you let me confide in you while it was happening. I called you when Laurel was acting distant. You told me to give her space." His jaw flexed. It wasn't supposed to go this far. I leaned forward, eyes locked on his. "It went far enough to ruin 2 years of my life. And you didn't blink." He looked away, stared at the coffee he hadn't touched. His hands were shaking. I wondered if Laurel was sitting at home right now, still thinking she had time to keep lying, still planning our wedding playlist. I stood up and dropped one more line before walking away. "You've got 3 days to tell her I know. If you don't, I will. And trust me, I won't do it gently." He didn't say anything. He didn't follow me. He just sat there, holding that folder like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I walked out of the cafe without looking back. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. Not because it was over, but because the reckoning had finally begun. 3 days came and went. I watched her carefully the whole time. Every movement, every tone, every sigh. I was looking for something, anything, that would suggest Gideon told her that the walls were closing in. But she was calm, radiant even. She hummed in the mornings, baked muffins on Saturday, left her phone screen down on the kitchen table like she had nothing in the world to hide. He hadn't told her. Of course he hadn't. Cowards rarely do. But I waited. I gave him every chance. And when Sunday evening rolled around, when Laurel curled up beside me on the couch, head on my shoulder, watching some indie film about a girl finding herself in Europe while cheating on her fiancé, I knew I'd waited long enough. I had everything ready. The setup was simple. I told her I was working on a new podcast format, a kind of raw audio storytelling idea. I said I wanted to test how different voice recordings sounded through our Bluetooth speaker, to check clarity and range. She bought it instantly. I'd spent years being the dreamer in our relationship, the guy always chasing some side project. She never took my ideas seriously, which made her the perfect mark. I connected the speaker, queued up the file, and pressed play without warning. At first, it was just ambient noise. She didn't even look up. Then, her own voice filled the room. Breathless, giggling. I swear if Micah finds out, I'll just cry and say it was the tequila again. He always believes me. I didn't look at her. I just stared at the wall. She went stiff beside me, completely still. Then came the other voice, Gideon's. Deep, amused, lazy. Don't worry. He's too soft to leave you anyway. There was a beat of silence after that. Then the laughter. Their laughter. Together. Private. Rehearsed. I paused the audio. The Bluetooth speaker clicked softly as it cut out. And finally, I looked at her. Laurel's face had gone pale. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Her fingers trembled slightly against her knee. She looked like someone had just dropped her out of a plane and forgotten the parachute. I let the silence stretch. I wanted her to live in it. Then I said, without anger, without drama, just facts. You recorded that on your AirPods. The mic triggered when you tapped your phone in the Uber. It auto-synced to my cloud. It's been sitting in my voice memos app for 5 days. She opened her mouth again, then closed it. Her eyes darted to the speaker, then to me, then to the floor. She blinked, once, twice, and I could see it. The panic, not about what she'd done, but about being caught. She finally said. Micah, I can explain. I held up a hand. Don't. I've already heard more than enough. I've got hours of recordings. I've seen the photos. I know it's Gideon. I know how long it's been going on. I know about the hotel, the hoodies, the voice notes, the fake client meetings. All of it. Her eyes widened. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. And I just kept going. I gave you 3 days to come clean. I gave him a chance to tell you. Neither of you did. That tells me everything I need to know. She shook her head, her voice finally finding footing. It wasn't serious. You don't get to define that anymore. I didn't mean to hurt you. You rehearsed how to lie to me. She blinked hard. Her eyes were starting to water, but I felt nothing. Not joy, not triumph, not even sadness. Just emptiness. Just the dull, distant ache of someone watching the credits roll on a movie they once thought would be their favorite. I just felt stuck, she whispered. I nodded slowly. Yeah, me too. Then I stood up. She grabbed my wrist, soft, pleading, but I pulled away. I'm not doing a fight scene, Laurel. I'm not doing the begging, the bargaining, the sobbing breakdown in the hallway. You already took my dignity. You don't get my reaction, too. I walked to the hallway and opened the closet. I'd already packed a bag, already booked a room, already forwarded the files to a personal email, locked with a new password she didn't know. Before I left, I turned back. You'll be hearing from me soon. Don't worry, I'm not going nuclear. But I am telling the truth. To everyone who deserves to know it. And then I walked out the door. She didn't follow. She didn't scream. She just stood there, frozen, in the glow of the paused movie she would now have to finish alone. The first night alone felt like detox. Not from her, but from the version of myself I had become with her. The accommodating, apologizing, over-explaining version of Micah that tiptoed around her moods, dismissed his own instincts, and mistook being ignored for being loved. I stayed in a small rental above a bookstore downtown. It smelled like paper and rainwater, and the walls were thin enough that I could hear the couple next door arguing about whose turn it was to buy cat food. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Quiet, simple, honest. And for the first time in weeks, I slept. No recordings, no lies, no fake smiles, just sleep. I didn't respond to Laurel's messages. She sent 3 that night, 5 the next day. One of them was a voice memo I didn't bother to play. I didn't need to hear her cry. I wasn't collecting tears. I was building distance. What surprised me most wasn't how easy it was to walk away, but how fast the fog lifted once I did. Everything started to feel sharper. My appetite came back. I laughed, genuinely, at a dumb video someone posted. I called my sister and told her the truth, the whole truth. She didn't say I told you so. She just said she was proud of me for finally choosing myself. And then something unexpected happened. People started showing up. Not physically, not with casseroles and candles, but in texts, emails, quiet check-ins. A friend from college I hadn't talked to in months messaged me. Hey, heard what happened. You didn't deserve that. If you ever need to vent or just exist around someone neutral, I'm here. Gideon stayed silent. I'm sure Laurel had her own version of the story. That was fine. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to go scorched earth. I had what I needed, clarity, and a clean exit. 2 weeks later, I canceled the venue. 3 days after that, I sold the ring. Not out of spite. I used the money to buy a second-hand keyboard and started writing music again. I hadn't written a full song in over a year. My creativity had vanished around the same time Laurel started staying out late. Now it was back like it never left. I changed my number. I deleted the folder with all the evidence. Not because I forgave them, but because I didn't want to carry their poison into my next chapter. I wasn't their victim anymore. I was just free. One night, I walked through the park near my new place. It was chilly, the kind of quiet, brisk cold that makes your breath visible. I sat on a bench with a coffee and just existed. No chaos. No pretending. No wondering if I was being lied to. A woman nearby was walking a dog who looked exactly like Clover. The resemblance was so strong, I almost laughed out loud. The dog pulled toward me, tail wagging, and the woman smiled. Sorry, she thinks everyone's her best friend. I scratched behind the dog's ear. That's a good way to live. We talked for a few minutes. About nothing. About everything. She wasn't trying to impress me. She didn't know my story, and that made it easier to breathe. Her name was Marnie. I don't know where that goes, maybe nowhere. But that wasn't the point. The point was, I was alive again. Whole. Not healed, but healing. And somewhere, in a dusty apartment filled with lies, Laurel was probably still trying to rewrite the ending of a story she lost control of. But mine? Mine was just getting started.